Bama wins the Iron Bowl, their 5th straight. What's next? We're going to talk about both of those, including this guy. He was at the game. All that coming up on the All-American Report, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use that promo code next round for a really great deal. I'm going to tell you about that, too, coming up here on the show. Let's get this thing started. Oh, Bama was celebrating like you in the Open when they took care of Auburn. You were at the game, living the lap of luxury in the zone, and Bama was in the zone 4 times. They won the game 28-14, man. It never gets old beating them, man. Never.
No, man, I've been look, fear the thumb. I mean, I lived through fear the thumb, so it's always good to be able to fear the thumb. Yeah, you're right. It never gets old, man. And got a chance to take my kids over. Got a late offer coming back from Thanksgiving. Got a chance to take my kids over to the Iron Bowl. Never want to miss that. My son's 4, my daughter's 2, so they were about to sleep midway through the first quarter with their little headsets on and everything. But we had a good time, dude. It's nice being back in T-Town, enjoying the game. I thought they played a gritty brand of Alabama football. Ran the ball well. Really committed to the run game. Did just enough through the air. Felt like turned the ball over a little bit sloppy in terms of that, but defense continues to surge, man. Say what you will about this defense, but they continue to surge. I know that against the quarterback runs against Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, not good, but really continue to get it sorted out. And I thought they just played with some grit, and that's the best thing you can say about them at this point. They play hard, and I think that's a hat tip to Kalen DeBoer. I heard Jalen Milroe afterwards saying how he loved Kalen DeBoer and the kind of coach he is and how much he loves football. So, yeah, dude, it's been an up and down year, but man, anytime you can close in Tuscaloosa, beating those guys, it's a beautiful feeling. I know you've been through some ups and downs watching these Iron Bowls too. I got there at a bad time for the Iron Bowl. I did. I showed up on campus in the middle of that 6-win streak, and I know you've seen some bad ones too.
Well, I just wanted to ask you about that too. I didn't want to talk about it beforehand just because, if you lose, then all of a sudden we're like talking about it and maybe it brings bad luck. I'm not superstitious, but yeah, I am, I guess. What was that like, losing all those games? Because they're going through that now where they've lost 5 straight. You were part of that. It's the biggest game of the year. And when you lose to them, I mean, it kind of ruins the whole offseason, I would think.
It was weird, man. Each game kind of took on a life of its own because I showed up. My first game was obviously 05. I was redshirted. We were favored. We were a good team. But that's the honk if you sack Brody game.
I was there.
I was redshirted, right? So I wasn't like part of the travel squad at the end of the year. I didn't travel to South Carolina, Mississippi State, or Auburn that year. And but I decided I was going to the game, right? I'm going to the game. I wanted to be there. It was all my teammates. I just wasn't on the travel squad. I was too young. They could only take a certain amount, and I just wasn't there yet. So I drove over to Auburn. I go to the game, and like people around me are like, "Hey, don't you play football?" I'm like, "Yeah, I play offensive tackle." Yeah, play offensive tackle, dude. They're like, it's just getting destroyed off the edge. Chris Capps and Kyle Tatum, God bless them. I think they put in Cody Davis at one point in that game. And these people sitting around me are looking at me going, "You play offensive tackle for this team, and you're so bad that you're sitting in the stands, and we're running through tackles on the field that are just getting destroyed." They're like, "How bad must you be that you're sitting up here?" No, man. And then 2006, kind of a blur. Obviously, that's Mike Shula's last game as a coach. And then I thought we had a good game plan in 06. Then 07, still a blur as well. I know there was a couple of back and forths, 4th down conversion we didn't get. Some other things, a tipped ball interception in the end zone off DJ Hall's hands. But it made it all the more sweet in 2008, which I believe was Tuberville's last game, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember getting pictures on my phone. That was like right in the middle of the time you could start sending pictures, and getting a picture on my phone of Tuberville walking in, giving one of these. And we were undefeated at the time. And I was like, dude, we're about to beat the crap out of these dudes. Like I was so jacked up, and that was what 35-36-0. So
36, yeah. But I mean,
good
the streak sucked, man. I mean, it was terrible. I
It
mean,
was
like,
brutal.
I can't imagine what it's like down there to lose 5 straight. Now, next year, DuBois, first year going to Auburn, it's going to be tough to win down there. It always is, right? But God, it just felt like Tuberville would just like he was just so good at just playing smart. Like they didn't beat themselves in those Iron Bowls. And I thought Alabama turned the ball over a lot, but they didn't. Their defense kind of made the turnovers go away. You know what I'm saying? Like they scored some, and then they made stops. That game could have been a lot worse.
Oh, it definitely could have. I thought that, I thought we stopped ourselves a number of times. Malachi Moore had the, unsportsmanlike, and a couple of other instances where I didn't like it. But what I liked was the game plan. Like we just straight up front with my guy Tyler Booker, who is just an absolute Jesse, dude. He is a road grading Jesse. Caden Proctor. Dupree, the tight end. Goodness, man. Like watching those guys go to work up front, it was simply Nick Sheridan going and Caleb DeBoer going, you're not going to stop us from running this ball. You might stop us on one set of downs, but we're going to come right back to it. And they fully committed to the run game, and I love to see it, man. I was sitting in the end zone, and I can see like cutback lanes and things like that early on in the game, and they just able to get it done, dude. I mean, that's how it should be. You should win in the trenches in the Iron Bowl, right? I mean, that's what I believe in. So
yeah,
it was a good feeling, man, because like I said, I know it's been an up and down year. We're all coming, feeling still sick about the Oklahoma loss. You could have had everything out in front of you. You lose to Oklahoma, and you kind of got that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, and then you can kind of right the ship and beat Auburn, beat your rivals, and get Coach DeBoer's Iron Bowl tenure off to a pretty good start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you this too, man. It's like it's a tough game to win. Getting that first one out of the way. Brian Harsin didn't win, and he, and he was there. I mean, Shula never beat them. It's a different animal. You played in it. To me, it's a different game, and I don't really know why, other than the intensity and the love that people have, and the I guess hate too, right?
Well, I'll be the first one to tell you, man. I can't remember. I guess it would have been in 2007. Iron Bowl actually played right guard. We put Antoine Caldwell came back off suspension for that game, put him at right tackle, and I stayed at right guard, which I had played during his suspension a little bit. And Marlon Davis's suspension. I can't remember what all happened with that, but there was something to the point where I was playing right guard. Antoine was playing right tackle. Evan Cardwell, who had filled in at center during all those textbook suspensions, was playing center. And I can just tell you, dude, like we did not run the ball very well that year. That was 2007. And one of the reasons I can distinctly remember thinking about it after the game, I was trying to kill people. I was coming out like an absolute missile, like pulling on like power and kick plays around to the left side of the line of scrimmage and whiffing because I'm just absolutely like a heat-seeking missile trying to hit somebody. Right. And they would just be like, oh, and they would be sitting in the hole. And my coach is like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I just feel like I'm about to kill somebody. Like, I feel like I'm about to kill somebody out there. And he's like, well, just slow down for a minute, take a breath. And I think we all kind of played like that for a little bit. The further you got into that streak, the more you wanted to beat them. And sometimes the worse off you are when that happens, because you start pressing, you start playing with anger, you start playing with, undisciplined brand of football. And that's going to get you beat 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, right. No, I'm with you, man. It felt great though to win that game that you guys won. I mean, that was that, and it's changed that rivalry. I mean, Bama's dominated really since then. They haven't lost many of them. A few. Auburn's had a couple of very memorable wins, but you know what? So is Alabama now. The kick six was great up until Gravedigger came. The drive that Bryce Young made. I mean, won him Heisman Trophy. So,
you know what's crazy about that? Speaking of Heisman Trophy, when I first got into radio doing sports media, probably told you the story before. It was like probably 2015-ish, maybe 2016. Ted Roof, who was the defense coordinator at Auburn in 2009, was the defense coordinator then at Georgia Tech. And where I was at doing some work over here for 680 The Fan in Atlanta, Ted Roof comes into studio. And I was just kind of kicking the tires on sports media at the time, kind of just filling in, not talking much on air. And I got a chance to meet Ted Roof, and I was like, yeah, I played offensive line at Bama in 2009, and you can see he's like, his wheels start spinning, and he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah, we had the comeback at the very end. And he's like, dude, he's like, that entire week, I was telling my front seven, I was like, dude, Mark Ingram might win the Heisman, but it ain't going to happen in Auburn. I can promise you that. He was like, every single dude, all 11 on defense, just locked in on 22, just locked in. He's like, that dude went left, we went left. That dude went right, we went right. He's like, now eventually he got out of the game because he had the hip, and he was like, and it might end up losing us the game. He was like, but he wasn't going to win the Heisman that day, not in Auburn. I was like, yeah, dude, hats off to you, because that's definitely how the game plan panned out. They went 5 and 6 down linemen across the front, couple linebackers, and dude, they were like, you are not running the ball today.
And he won the Heisman in that Florida game, the SEC title game.
Yep.
But yeah, that one I didn't even think about yours. That 09 game was one of the greats ever down there too. The drive at the end, the Julio Jones finally hit Upshaw for the touchdown at the end. It was beautiful, man. Like I was so worried about that game.
Upchurch. I mean, you can't butcher Upchurch's name, man.
Yeah,
no,
sorry, dude.
Won't let you do it. I've told you a story about the Daniel Moore, your buddy Daniel Moore, man. I'm so hot with that guy. I know that it's just one of the things that Daniel Moore is always trying to spread the love. And look, man, I love Colin Peak. He's one of our good teammates, good dude. But at the Daniel Moore of that 2009 Iron Bowl victory, Colin Peak is standing in my spot, dude. Painted Colin Peak into the picture. He's in my spot. Like I was that guy in the actual play. I'm where Colin Peak is. I was so mad. Like, I mean, obviously I was in a national title Daniel Moore a month later, but God, I was so mad. I'm pulling around. I'm like kind of Greg's like personal protector on the play.
Yeah.
And Greg kind of rolled out and hits Roy in the flat, man. And when the Daniel Moore, they're announcing they're doing a Daniel Moore, I'm like, oh, sick. I thought it'd be good. Maybe I'm in it. It's Colin Peak. I was like, dude, I know. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I know you're trying to spread the love, man, but that is definitely where I was standing, right there.
I wonder why.
I was so mad about that, man.
I'm playing that next time I interview him. I'm playing this clip. But
man, I was so hot with him. and look, man, I love Daniel. I went to sign some pictures for him a few months later, and I was in the national title one after the Trent Richardson run, where I had a pancake on the Trent Richardson run, and I'm kind of on a knee, right? I'm kind of on a knee looking back at that Trent run down the field, and that's a cool pose and everything. It's on a national title, Daniel Moore, but man, I was so mad at him about that. I was like, man, who chose this? Who was like, yeah, let's stick Colin Peak in there? Just not. He wasn't even in the play. Like I think he was on the field, but he wasn't even a part of what was going on, dude.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I was frustrated. Anyways, love Roy Upchurch, man. Great dude.
I'm sorry, Roy Upchurch. I'm so sorry.
Roy's a head coach. I don't want to butcher it. Roy's a high school head coach down in Montgomery.
Is he?
Jag High School, which used to be a different name. I can't remember what the name was, but they got rid of the old name and turned it Jag High School.
Yeah, so funny. Well, now Bama sits in a spot, Mike. You and I are going to have a debate on this. I think they're getting in. I think they're going to get in because they played a tough schedule. They had 3 losses on the road, but the 3 losses that they had on the road, the teams that would be ahead of them the team that would be ahead of them in the college football playoff didn't play any like tough games like that. Some of these like trying to compare the ACC conference and what they're playing up against this SEC. This SEC now is like an NFL league. I mean, really it is. Even the bad teams are good. I think, and honestly, I'm going to tell you, Coker's the one that kind of talked me into this, but I agree with him. I think that the loser of the ACC championship game is not getting in. I just don't think you can compare them. And the reason why is, first off, you can't compare the losses because they didn't play anybody. There's too many easy games on the schedule. The other thing is, and look, it's just the bottom line is that if you put Bama in South Bend to play Notre Dame in a playoff game, if I'm spending the millions of dollars to do this, that's the game I want. And I'm going to tell you this, as a guy that loves college football, I might have to go to that. I might have to go to South Bend and see that game. That is, if it's SMU, nobody's going to want to see that.
Well, I think now here's what I'll say. If SMU beats Clemson, I think you stand a much better shot. Here's what the indicator will be, and we're recording this on Tuesday at almost 2:00 Eastern time because we don't know what's coming out.
Right.
Well, the indicator to me will be how far does Miami fall? Like, where is Miami at in all of this? Because Miami, I believe, last week is at 6. When they were 10-1, they lose to Syracuse. I'm having a hard time believing that Miami's going to fall behind any of the other SEC teams. And I'm with you on the traveling, and in the end, it's a business. But I think the College Football Playoff Committee is probably a little bit sick of the whole SEC bias thing. A 2-loss Miami team, even though they're bad losses to Georgia Tech and to Syracuse in the last couple of weeks. I think that they're still going to get the nod over the SEC teams. That leaves, does SMU beat Clemson? I think Clemson has to win the game against SMU either way. I'm with you. I think if Clemson loses to SMU, they're completely done, and they should be. That's that would be 4 losses at that point too to SEC teams. So I'm good on that, man. It just I don't know. I'm gonna be looking in the playoff to where Miami is ranked, how far they fall, because six falling all the way to what would it be 13 that's a tumble, and that's quite the statement.
Miami's in the AP. You can look at the AP and the coaches poll. They almost parrot the exact same thing here with the College Football Playoff Committee. Like, there's been no surprises so far compared to those. Yeah. Miami fell off the radar. The ACC has a bunch of bad teams in it. They don't invest in football. The talent isn't even close. Week in and week out. Now, I'm not saying that that Georgia Tech, almost beating Georgia isn't a big deal. I mean, I think it is, but they didn't. Like, the bottom line is Clemson got beat by South Carolina. Like, then you look at the non-conference schedules. I mean, SMU hasn't beaten a good team this year. They're the same thing as Indiana. You got these teams that ran through bad schedules, and it's like, okay, but that's not going to make people tune in and watch. And if I'm the guy that put the money down to pay for this, $1 billion TV package, don't give me SMU when I can have Alabama, right? If Alabama loses, it's huge TV ratings, man.
Well, hello.
And Alabama, and if Alabama wins, everybody hates them because we're like the national heel. Like, it's great.
I don't think it's going to be an SMU versus Alabama thing. I think either SMU is going to beat Clemson and they're going to go as the ACC team, or they're going to lose and it's going to be, in my opinion, it'd be SMU against Miami because they're kind of along the same lines, right? I don't know, man. Let me come at you from this angle because I'm curious to get your opinion on this, and I'm curious to get Alabama fans' opinion on this. Scale from 1 to 10, if Bama is left out, how mad are you going to be?
I'm going to be disappointed. Because the alternative, Mike, is the Cheez-It Bowl. And it's going to be the Cheez-It Bowl against some crappy Big Ten team like Illinois. And then I got to cover that, right? You got to cover that. Like, who wants the damn Cheez-It Bowl against any of these? Like, the Big Ten is so top heavy. Like, I'll say this. I like Ohio State. I still think they might win the national championship. Oregon's a fun team.
They took one on the chin last week, didn't they?
What's that?
I still can't believe Ohio State lost to Michigan.
Michigan knows the formula, man. And
believe it.
They know the formula, and they made it their season to beat them, and they did. It was a great game on the road. They might get Ryan Day if he gets beat in the first round, he might get fired. But they spent $20 million on that roster.
Man, how about that? I can't get over that one, man. That one's that's tough. That's tough. I'm with you though. Look, the Big Ten's they're gonna have 4 teams in. They're already locked in at 4. I think 11. In my opinion, 11 the spots are locked. I think you got to see what happens in the ACC game. And I know that everybody, Bama fans have been paying attention to the Vegas odds. I don't know if you've seen them up to date. As of 20 minutes ago, Bama's heavily favored to be the last team in. I think it was minus 260 was the most recent odd I saw.
I'm telling you, the reason why it's going to happen is Bama fans are going to be on here. I read your messages, guys, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, always.
And we love the debate and all that. And there's some Bama fans that are like, we don't deserve to get in or whatever. You guys can't look at the way that this season's gone and compare it to other seasons. This is a different format. You got a different coach. You got a different format. You got all of these schools in your conference that have millions of dollars that they're spending on rosters. Okay. So the field isn't what it was before. You know, it's a Wild West. You can go out and buy a roster. This is professional sports. It's not college, but these guys aren't amateurs anymore. So it's like, well, you know, you want to compare it. You can't. And what I'm saying is that losing to Vandy on the road isn't that bad of a loss. The Oklahoma loss wouldn't be that bad if you just would have showed up and played with a little energy. But I'm saying, like, outside of what we expect and our expectations, going 9-3 in this schedule is good enough to be one of the top 12 teams. That's what I'm saying.
Let me just, because I'm with you. And I was feeling that way up until this morning, really. I was like, you know, Bama just, that Oklahoma game, your season was kind of on the line. You just laid an absolute egg. Terrible. But I have been talked back into thinking that Bama deserves a spot, because if you're going to get 12 teams in, I would say there might only be 3 or 4 that did not at some point lay an absolute egg this year. Notre Dame losing to NIU. Tennessee losing to Arkansas. Miami losing to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. I mean, you just go down the list. Ohio State losing to Michigan. Like, all these teams
have losses.
Have like, not just losses, Mick. Those are bad. Those are bad losses. And so
the Falcons might win the Super Bowl. Same thing with with the best teams ever, right? Tom Brady's the coach, the GOAT, not the coach, the GOAT. He's got Belichick. They're winning the Super Bowl. Some of those teams lost 3 or 4 or 5 games and still won the Super Bowl.
More than that. I think they won the Super Bowl if you're going 10-6.
So my point is that you can't. The days of having amateur college football are over. This isn't amateur college football. This is professional college football, and it is what it is. Bama did enough at 9-3 to be one of 12 teams. And if they decide now, we can debate whether they gave 110% in that Oklahoma game or not. I don't think they did. I think that's one of the biggest problems that they have right now is handling success and bringing that intensity each week. But you know what? The games where they've played hard. What did they win? Like 6 out of the last 7 games. I mean, that tells you something. It's not like they're backing in on this either.
Well, and here's the other thing I say, and you and I think when we get back together later in the week, maybe Thursday, I'm gonna talk about, you know, what this could look like and what Bama's struggles have been on the year, what sticks out to me, and what they need to fix. And the conversation will either be, you know, going to the playoffs, what they need to fix, and what the upside is, or going in the offseason. One or the other. But, you know, look, man, the bottom line is Bama lost 3 games all on the road. And that's something that even if you do squeak in the playoffs, you need to address. Like, you're going to go into one of those, no matter what happens, if you go into the playoffs and you're the 12 seed, 11 seed, whatever it is, and you go on the road, you're going to be in one of the most hostile environments you've ever been in. For that playoff game, December 19th, December 20th. So I don't know, man. I have no idea what the committee is going to do, and that's that's the reason there's a committee and not just one person, because there's not really criteria. It just says, hey, who do we think can get this done? No matter what happens tonight and next week, or on Sunday, I guess they announce it. There's going to be a lot of people ticked off, and it's going to be a replay of last year in terms of how many people are upset that their team's not in the dance. I'm with a lot of people. I was like, you know, Bama they didn't win the games they needed to. They should have beat a bad Oklahoma team or whatever. But when you do look at the other teams they're competing with, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not like these teams all dealt with business. You know, it's like, I mean, right. It is what it is. So
Alabama would have ran their schedule easy. Like they wouldn't have lost to any of those games. If BYU is your best game and you lost to them for SMU, I mean, come on, man. Like,
it still blows my mind.
Clemson's going to beat the brakes off of them.
It still blows my mind that somehow the worst regular season loss that Bama has had in I don't even know how long. How long has it been since Bama lost a regular season game by 3 touchdowns?
Long time.
I wasn't there for any of them. I don't know that when I was in college we ever lost by more than 2 scores.
You also played for Nick Saban, and then even
even before that though, like even when Shula was there, I don't think we lost by 3 scores.
These are Mike DeBose type losses, man.
That was that Oklahoma game, and like I said, I'm still trying to flush it and get out of my system. I'm trying to focus on the Iron Bowl, but yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure. I think that here's the good news, Mick. We can talk about this later in the week, depending on what comes out of the rankings. If Bama does get in, I think there's a path. I think there's one thing about what Alabama does well that absolutely plays in the college football playoff. And so I'm excited to see if they get a spot. And if they do, they're going to make a lot of other teams nervous. We'll just put it that way.
That's a teaser for next show. And that'll be coming up on Thursday. 300% deposit bonus when you use that promo code next round at mybookie.ag, right? 50 free spins using the promo code next round, 300% deposit bonus. This won't relate to you, Mike, but some people, right? You go to the in-laws and you're like, man, this is uncomfortable. You sit on the corner of the couch, you want to watch a little football, and they're watching like classic movies on TLC or the Hallmark Channel, and they're talking about stuff you don't care about, and you're just trying to make it through. Like you got to stay focused. And tell you what you do. mybookie.ag and use that 300% deposit bonus and the 50 free spins and make some money and play a little bit while you're sitting there on the corner of the couch. Or maybe you just want to do it and you're bored. Or maybe you just like to have fun. But this is the best deal that we're going to offer at mybookie.ag. So take advantage of that. They bring you the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Auburn fans, we know that's a lot for you guys. But Alabama fans, you can handle all that. Hit the bell and be part of, obviously, Cover Crimson. And then covercrimson.com. I'm about to swing over there right now and get on that message board. You do the same thing. And we appreciate you. And when you do covercrimson.com, you get to talk to us, stay informed on what's going on, recruiting. We're going to be hitting that pretty hard tomorrow right here on the channel. So thanks for hanging out. And Mike, when we come back, we'll have a little recruiting to talk about. And then you're going to lay out the path, not just to make the playoff for Bama, but to win the title.
That's right, baby. Roll Tide.
All right.